All right. Hello and welcome everybody to a very special and rare edition of the Bear Ski Film Show that we're doing live today. A little bit out of our norm, but we wanted to try it. We wanted to make sure we have some fan interaction possible with some of our viewers out there and whatnot. So, yeah, training camp has been underway. Man, is it exciting to see some new Bears content again, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving some of the clips that we're seeing coming out of the camp and whatnot, and I just cannot wait for Hard Knocks now. And man, the season's right around the corner. We're talking about 1 week away, and we have a Bears preseason football game. I mean,
This is the
it's
last
literally.
Sunday. This is the last Sunday of the year without football on.
I know it's great. It's great, and as
Yeah.
soon as football
That's
starts, I am in my comfort zone, man. I love
oh
it,
yeah.
absolutely love it. So, you know, seeing some stuff, like I said, coming out of camp and whatnot. Has gotten me really excited. But the one thing, I'm constantly kind of leaning back on is, I'm still, I'm a pessimist, and we've been hurt so many times before with this team and with this franchise, and we've had such high expectations before in the past that's, brought us right back down to earth real quick. And so I'm just kind of looking at this thing, trying to evaluate if something was to go wrong, like what could go wrong. And the one thing I keep kind of coming back to is really the head coach position. So with Matt Eberflus, what can he show us that demonstrates that he's going to be the right guy for the job for this season and moving forward? Because we can't do this whole, oh, we're going to draft a quarterback and then a year later get rid of the coach thing again. I mean, we've been through that over and over and over, and I don't want that to repeat. So what does Matt Eberflus truly have to do to sit here and solidify his job for the future?
Man, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot because I know that the next coaching cycle is going to be really, really cool and interesting and crazy because I think Mike Vrabel is going to be hired the following year again, right? I think Ben Johnson held out this offseason really just because he was like, I don't really love any of these job opportunities. I might like some of them, but I don't love them. And I think next year he's going to get a lot more, I don't know, A plus tier, job opportunities like Cowboys or Bears, God forbid, if like Matt Eberflus really fumbles the bag here. But to speak on Matt Eberflus, and we've had these conversations a lot, and I same thing, man. I don't like being a pessimist about this. I want to be an optimist about this, but like Matt Eberflus is the unfortunate kind of like continuous recycling of the yes man that I kind of just see from the McCaskies. And I don't know how to feel about him. I think in terms of what I want to see out of him, we've talked about like what's Matt Eberflus's best case scenario, and it's to be a guy like McDermott from Buffalo for the few years that they kind of like they did it for a few years, getting to playoffs, consistently competing for AFC championships, possibly maybe even a John Harbaugh. I always get them mixed up, Jim and John. But like I would say like a John Harbaugh, right? And to be like a game manager and to kind of delegate responsibility to everybody. But even then, that's not necessarily true because he's going to be defensive play caller this year, right? So I don't know how to feel about Matt Eberflus this year. I guess to say like what can he do to really win me over this offseason and then moving into the regular season is fix his time management, right? Because we've seen from last year like a lot of problems with time management. Have that aggressive play calling that isn't just stagnant and keep rolling with what you got in the second half of the offseason. And I don't want to take all the points from you, but what do you think? Like that's my big two, I guess, right? Is just kind of have like better clock management, time management, and then just keep the play calling consistent and use what you got. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're looking at a situation with a guy here that, when you look at his resume, I know he's considered to be a defensive guy, but when you go through his resume in the past, he's worked at all phases of the football game. You know what I mean? He's been an offensive guy. He's done some special team stuff. And more recently with the Colts, he was a defensive guy, which is kind of what we see him as. But his football knowledge is very spread around. And I've heard some players kind of touch on the fact that they feel like he's a very high IQ head coach, which is nice to hear. I think what I think what's happening here is really, truly from his position, you really are leaning a lot on your coordinators, which is funny because both the coordinators from last year are gone, right? And so, with that kind of coaching style, I would think that he would have been gone with them, but he wasn't. Ryan Poles kept him around, and I actually feel much better about these two coordinators that we have this year than I did last year, right? So I think you're really going to try and bank on the fact that Shane Waldron is going to lead this offense pretty consistently, and you're not going to have to be very hands-on with that from Matt Eberflus's point of view. And I think the biggest thing to me is, I look at last year, and even though we got so hot at the end of the season and things started coming together defensively after the Montez Sweat trade and everything, it's still just that 0-4 start just killed us. I mean, there was just no digging yourself out of that hole. It was so hard. And so even though it looked great, you still, missed the playoffs. You still wound up having a very average season where still a lot of changes needed to be made. So I think they need to come out hot. I think it's important to get a win or two here pretty early in the season. And, if we could talk about change all we want, I want to see it. That would be change. Like, come out hot, ready to go. If the Bears start, 2-1, 3-1, that would be very, very, very refreshing. And I would definitely tip my hat towards Matt Eberflus if they got that kind of start.
Yeah, I've had a lot of the thought process the last few days about the head coaching position, just like what I've been hearing from, even the radio stations. I think one of their beat writers from 670 was mentioning that one of Matt Eberflus's strengths is delegation and hiring coordinators and letting them do their job. And I was like, I listened to it, and he kind of was starting to backpedal from his point. And I'm sorry, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but I was like, is that necessarily true? And even if that is true, if you are, I don't know, I guess you can't do worse than Alan Williams, right? And maybe that's not even within Matt Eberflus's control. So I don't want to put the blame on Matt Eberflus. And then at the same time, Luke Getsy, I think the Luke Getsy byproduct was mostly due to Alan Williams, right? And we talked about it during the season that you can't let go of both of your coordinators during the season and then somehow say that the head coach was doing everything he could to keep the ship together. However, to be the positive side is how much better could Matt Eberflus have done last year with what we've heard from Alan Williams being an obvious catastrophe in the sense of we still don't know what happened and why he got fired, but irrelevant, right? But even then, I think the first week or two of that season, he was an absolute train wreck play caller, super vanilla, running cover two and all that stuff. And then even from the hints and little things that we hear from Vegas and what we hear from Luke Getsy leaving here, Luke Getsy was an absolute train wreck of a coordinator. So maybe he bought himself some time, and maybe he bought himself some brownie points with management and Ryan Poles in the sense of these are the people, but that also attributes to the fact of how much responsibility was on Matt Eberflus to hire those two guys, and how does that delegation fall on him? And that's right, where I'm
I do think I definitely am guilty of not giving him enough credit for what he did do last year.
Right.
And keeping that thing afloat, man, that was not an easy task.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat on that. I feel bad about not liking Matt Eberflus too much, but I don't know why I should like him, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't necessarily dislike him that much, but I don't know if he's proven anything to say that he is super worthwhile. Because I always, what's our go-to standards for coaching? It's guys like Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, and Mike Tomlin held on to hit Matt Canada for way too long.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one of those okay, Mike Tomlin probably could have done a better job too, but Mike Tomlin's always doing a spectacular job. So I don't know. I thought about that. And then I thought about the guys that are still available or the guys that were passed up and maybe not offered the job like Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel. And I thought about going into training camp when we start watching Hard Knocks and we saw Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel. Is that going to inspire a lot more confidence than watching Matt Eberflus during Hard Knocks? Or I don't know. So I guess, your point is 100% right, because winning cures all. If they start off 3-1, I think everybody's going to be really into Matt Eberflus. But then it turns into how much of that credit deserves, to be given to Matt Eberflus versus Shane Waldron or Eric Washington or whoever else. But I hope Matt Eberflus proves us all wrong this year.
You know what the Bill Belichick quote is, right? I believe it's Bill Belichick. Players win games, coaches lose them.
Yeah.
So, right. So, they tend to get all the blame when things are going wrong, and the players tend to get all the hype and positive praise when things are going right. But, I know you mentioned Luke Getsy. I found it really interesting, the comments that came out of Tevin Jenkins recently about Luke Getsy, saying that it was something along the lines of, I don't know it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of that there were like a lot of gray areas last year. Whereas this year, it seems like everybody's a little bit more on the same page. Guys, I mean, Luke Getsy was a quarterback's coach for Aaron Rodgers, which, David, you've told me Aaron Rodgers doesn't really probably need a quarterback coach. If anything, he might have taught Luke Getsy some things, right? And so we take a guy from that position and promote him to offensive coordinator, and he might have just not been ready for it, especially if you have offensive linemen coming out saying that things weren't clearly defined for multiple scenarios and whatnot. And I think that kind of struck me a little bit, because I think what we're getting with Shane Waldron is a guy that at least has experience being an offensive coordinator, right? So at least I feel a lot better about that. But with Tevin Jenkins too, I think it's interesting with his situation, the whole contract coming up and whatnot. Do you think, I know he asked for an extension, and at first they didn't get back to him. Now they said, well, let's wait until midseason, until the bye week, and we'll resume talks. Do you think that's a smart move on the Bears' end?
I think so. I think it's the only move you could make with a guy like that. And you know how much we take stock into capology and thinking like 2 years, 3 years ahead, and like where you distribute your money and everything like that. Tevin Jenkins, for sure. I think he was one of my favorite players very, very early on. I want to say, like, even in that Texans game 2 years back, and I texted you within the first 3 or 4 plays just saying how much, like, if this guy plays like this, I mean, he's a top 5 guard in this league. So I've been a fan of Tevin Jenkins for a pretty good amount of time, but when he's healthy, he's good. The problem is if he's healthy. And I think that's almost like it's the most media savvy, politically correct way of telling Tevin Jenkins, like, dude, if you stay healthy, you're going to get paid. It's one of those like read between the lines kind of comments. Like, if you're going to say that we'll talk at the bye week, that's basically saying, like, are you going to be healthy till the bye week? Because if you're healthy at the bye week, you'll have a lot of power at that negotiating table. But if you're missing 6, 7, 8 games and it's week 10 and we're at the bye, like, you're going to be a free agent. So right. I think it's the smart thing to do. And it's also kind of the politically correct way of saying, like, basically just stay healthy and we'll talk.
Well, what's interesting, in a recent press conference that Tevin Jenkins had after one of the training camps, he was talking about how he's putting a lot more time and effort into his diet, the things he puts into his body. He says he's never been a big massage guy, but now he's starting to get massages and this and that. And I remember watching like the quarterback documentary on Netflix with Kirk Cousins. And he said very early on, Santana Moss on the Redskins, it was like a 15-year vet. And he told him, man, you got to get massaged. You got to treat your body right if you want to last in this league. And he took that advice and ran with it. And it's very, very, very important. So it's kind of interesting to hear Tevin Jenkins talk about how he's starting to realize the importance of that. And I mean, in his personal life, I believe he just had a kid, or he's got a kid on the way. Like, this guy's going to want to get paid. He's going to want another contract. And he's, you're going to want to make the most money you can in this league, especially with how short of a lifespan players have in the NFL and whatnot. You want to capitalize on it the most. And so, yeah, I think he realizes that health is his issue too. I think he realizes, hey, I got to stay on this field, and hopefully he's starting to do some different things, whether it's diet wise, taking care of yourself physically, that will improve that. But, David, to your point, last year he missed the first 5 games of the season. And then he was out for one more at the end of the season, towards the end of the season. But it wasn't until week 6 against the Vikings that Tevin Jenkins was on the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe, and this is something that I don't really hear talked about Tevin Jenkins a lot. And it's something that is the number one thing that concerns me by far. And I don't really hear about it in the whole injury discussion thing. All pro centers, cool. I mean, hopefully he doesn't have to shift to center. I thought about that a lot today. If like a guard gets hurt, if any of these guards get hurt, and then you have to slide Ryan Bates out to guard, and then now you're talking
but
about
then you
signing
have
Connor Williams
then
again.
you have the other center we got from the Rams.
Yeah, Coleman Shelton.
Yeah, Coleman Shelton.
No, so this is the number one thing I was thinking about with Tevin Jenkins, because and chat or you can jog my memory. What was the main reason he was out for 5 weeks? Because I think he hurt like a leg, he hurt an ankle or something. But the thing that always catches my attention with Tevin Jenkins is when he gets those neck stingers, and he always he'll go limp or lose feeling in his legs or in his fingers or whatever. And me and you, I think we've commented on it to each other privately, like on text, where we're just like, this guy can't play much longer in the NFL. If he's just, every time he gets a stinger and he feels like a shock to his spine, I think that's a big deal though. So exactly. So if it's his neck, I don't care how many massages you're getting, spinal injuries are spinal injuries. I worry about that guy, not even just as a player in the NFL. I worry about him as a person, because everything I've seen about him, he seems like a really nice dude. And like you said, he had a baby and a wife. And every time he gets a stinger in the neck and he stays on the ground, because that's usually the times you see Tevin Jenkins get hurt, as he's just immobile, borderline getting ready to be carried off on a stretcher. And I'm just I'm worried about the dude. So can you even adjust for that? Spine injuries and neck injuries and Myles Garrett. Yeah, so I don't know. I wonder about that guy.
Yeah, and and like you said, he's a top 5 guard in this league when he's on the field, though, right? And so it's such an interesting situation, because you want to be able to keep a guy like that. I mean, listen, when putting together highlight videos, he sticks out. He's got a crazy motor, man. He plays through the whistle. I see him jumping on piles. This is the type of offensive lineman I want on my team. Yeah. But for talking money, for talking contract, you're gonna wind up, from the GM point of view, offering him something that's, if he can only play half a season, guess what? You're only getting so much money, right? And you don't want to insult the player either. And at the same time, they want to capitalize on their contracts. So maybe the best path winds up being hitting free agency and going somewhere else to another team that pays you, which would be sad. It would be really sad. But yeah, so I think waiting till the bye week is definitely probably the only realistic move you can make with this situation. I wouldn't have done anything right now with him either,
Yeah, no, I think it's the logical thing to do. And we've talked about it that. I guess if, and I got to look it up, but I know Robert Hunt is pretty much the largest paid guard, or the highest paid guard in the NFL after that contract he signed with the Panthers, which is 5 years, $100 million. Holy cow, $20 million a year.
Wow. So these guys are getting paid, man.
That's wild. And so if you're talking about, if Tevin Jenkins has a bad year, you're probably still in the 12, 13. And I remember you were on a different show talking about what's your comfort zone of, of what you want to pay that guy. I think we all agree it's 12, 13, but then we self-admittedly say he's a top 5 guard in the league if he's healthy, and top 5 guards in the league get paid $20 million a year. You can't do that. Even if he is the top 5 guard, I don't think team building wise, you can structurally say that your top 5 players on your team are Montez Sweat, or in terms of pay. Mike McGlinchey got 18 mil. Thank God. That's one of those sliding door moments that we always talk about. Ryan Poles got saved from himself right there. Mike McGlinchey he was ready to pay Mike McGlinchey, and then Denver stepped in and did a Denver thing. Ryan Poles, he was a gold member, saved me from myself, right? Eating the skin. Right. But that's one of those lucky save you from yourself. But you can't pay Tevin Jenkins $20 million a year, and then in 2-3 years when you got to pay receivers $30 million, quarterbacks $40 million, $50 million, you just can't have that on your budget. And then this kind of brings me to a transition point, because I remember I heard you talking about guys that are left on this team from a Ryan Pace standpoint and who got paid, right? And so I think you mentioned 2, which is Jalen and Cole Kmet, and they got paid, and both got paid on a budget. For what their value is and what their position pays, they got paid on a budget. Ryan Poles is he draws his line in the sand in terms of money with these guys, and you can take it if you want to stay on the team, but you'll be top 6, top 7 paid, but we're not going to overpay you or reset the market for you if we don't think that you're the best at your position. And Cole Kmet's obviously not a top 5 tight end. He's probably close to the top 10, 15. Jalen Johnson, had a top 5 season. Is he a top 5 cornerback period, like every game? Probably. I don't know. I don't want to start that argument. But then there's 2 guys left over from Ryan Pace, and that's Tevin Jenkins. And another one I heard about today that kind of jogged my memory was Khalil Herbert.
Oh, I've
And
heard
so-
some stories about him maybe potentially being used on the chopping
cut block. Yeah. And then
Hmm.
so I feel like but I think that'd be crazy you can get a 6th or 7th round pick for Khalil Herbert, but probably not because they're running backs in the NFL. Who knows? Or maybe you just waited too long to try to get rid of them. But those Ryan Pace picks keep kind of coming back. And so I had a thought today. For a guy like Ryan Poles, who believes in the trenches and defensive line, offensive line, I find it interesting that very little capital has been invested in those 2 positions. Jalen got an average of 18 and a half.
18 million, I believe, for four years, right?
Yeah, 18 mil, 18 and a half for 4 years each.
What you were saying.
Yeah, we both agree. You know what's funny? Looking back on those videos, we were nailed it. Like between the 2 of us, you said he was worth 16. I said he was gonna get 20 because you got to upcharge, and he landed right at 18, which is exactly what it should be. He got upcharged from what he's worth, but he didn't reset the market at 20. So Ryan Poles, good for you.
What you were saying, Poles believes in the trenches.
Poles believes in the trenches, but like when you look at across the front 5, he really, really worked hard to get Ryan Bates here, right? Tried to pay him last year, then traded a pick for him. Paid Nate Davis. That's a debatable, was that worth it? Almost certainly not. However, you can let Nate Davis go and then pay Tevin Jenkins if you want to. That's a conversation down the line. Braxton Jones is a 5th round pick. You got your center position. You got Tevin Jenkins is a 2nd round pick that he didn't even spend on him, right? So he's reinvesting. Wright. And then Darnell Wright's your 1st round pick. So that's your one value, like your one big expenditure on the offensive side. And then on defense, yes, Gervon Dexter cost you a 2nd. I guess Montez Sweat cost you a 2nd and money, right?
And Zach Pickens is a 3rd.
And Zach Pickens is a 3rd, but I don't even say that. Like, I think for defensive tackles in the NFL, 3rd round is like you spend 3rd round picks on defensive tackles for depth with the hope of an upside or something. But you don't spend 3rd round picks going like this is gonna be my superstar. You go like top 10 for defensive tackles.
Correct.
And then defensive ends, what you paid for DeMarcus Walker, he's kind of a budget guy. He's like $7.5 million a year or something like that. Dominique Robinson. Oh, is that another Ryan Pace? Or is that no? That's Ryan Poles' first draft.
I believe that's Ryan Poles' first draft. Yeah.
Fifth round pick. So I found that interesting. So do you chalk that up? And maybe this is more like, just kind of, you'd have to go back and review the draft boards. Like, does Ryan Poles just think he's like smarter and can find value at those positions down the line? Or is it never lined up where he said, you know what, this guy's worth a 1st round pick. This guy's worth a big contract. Or did those guys just like never show up at the perfect time? Because I'm starting to doubt that Ryan Poles will ever do it. But maybe this next draft will prove me wrong, right? When they have like the 32nd pick in the draft.
Yeah,
but,
right. Hopefully,
yeah, right.
Hopefully.
Are they going to spend the 32nd pick in the draft on like a defensive end, right? They've never done it. And I'm like curious to think, what do you think about that? Like for a guy who openly talks about like the trenches winning games, I never really seen him invest or push too hard on those positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because from a draft strategy point of view, like you can take those guys late and they can pan out. As far as the offensive line, centers, guards, tackles are a different story, but centers and guards, you can find those guys, right? But even so, there were still a couple moments where, 2nd round, 3rd round, we're kind of looking like, hey, will they take this center? Will they take that center? And they don't. Right, like so. Right. It's passed
Don
up
Michael
on
Smith to think of one last year. Easily could have had him. Cedric Van Pran this year. You easily could have had him. We talked about that guy. The guy from Oregon got taken pretty early. I want to say 15th or something like that. But you could have traded down and got him. But
yeah. And so like, okay, and then you could say, well, there's a lot of holes on this team, but center is definitely one of them, right? Like center was a huge hole on this offensive line. And I think it speaks volumes to what they think of Bates. I really do. And I because of how long they tried to sit here, the 2nd year now they went after him and they finally got him. I really, truly believe that they think that guy is going to be the center here moving forward and whatnot. But next year, I really think you have to target a defensive end in the first round next year, or are you going to make a move by the trade deadline like you did with Montez Sweat again? I mean, but I think that all depends on where this team's at during the season. If they truly feel like they have a shot and they're competing, yeah, you may want to pull the trigger and add those pieces sooner than later, because I mean, man, every year's a shot, right? So you got a pretty good chance this year based off what we're seeing, how this team is constructed, and how the whole NFC is even constructed right now. I mean, I just want to say this to everybody. Like, the NFC's, in my opinion, wide open. David, we have these conversations personally all the time. Like, you take one of these AFC quarterbacks. I mean, let's just go top 4, top 5. You're talking about who? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
Joe Burrow.
Dude, you got what's his name off the Chargers?
Justin Herbert. You put any of those guys on the Lions, and the Lions are in the NFC Championship every single year, guaranteed.
Pretty much, like, all those guys are tearing it up in the AFC, and there's a lot of competition there. And here in the NFC, like, I mean, we got an aging Matt Stafford who's already won his, right? Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, like, hey, listen, Brock Purdy is the name that kind of pops up, which I'll say, okay, but even so, it's not like he's a dominant QB in this league. Yeah. And so, Jared Goff, I guess, is the one that you kind of look at, and, him being 29 years old, 30 years old, kind of in the prime of his career. I personally have him kind of listed in that, like, Kirk Cousins category. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Goff. I just don't buy into it. But what I'm saying is this whole side of the football, the whole NFC division, or the whole NFC conference is really for the taking. Like, it was Aaron Rodgers for however long, and he's gone now. And so I think, man, we have an opportunity here like no other. I think the window's open for us, and I think it's wide open to sit here and not only have success this year, but long-term sustained success if it's done right. And dude, it all leans on Caleb Williams, and it really does.
Well, for years we always said it, like Michael Jordan, just got in everybody's way, right? If Michael Jordan just didn't exist, there'd be so many different champions that sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So George Ray says, a little late to the episode, but all Flus needs to do is win. Yeah, we agreed. Like we said, especially if he wins early. Let's take a look at another.
He's 3-1. He's gonna be considered like a top coach all of a sudden through 4 games. So
yeah. Bear Truth 9 says, you look at the drafts and free agency and how he deals with the cap for long-term success. Second year, we had to hit the cap floor, so we had to spend. Yeah, it's true. It was kind of a necessity thing, and we're at a place where we need aging good vets on short deals while we continue to draft well. Only trade if a rare dude hits the market at a premium O-line or D-line position. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to sit here and make a move out of desperation by any means. And it was interesting because when they got Montez Sweat, it was kind of Washington who was desperate. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford all their guys. Everybody knew it, so he was for the taking, right? Yeah. So the situation does have to align from multiple different avenues to kind of to make sense, right?
Yeah, but that's still it's still the draft part of it. Still just kind of leaves it up to like, is he just like saying like this guy is nowhere near worth drafting in the second round, right? Like John Michael Schmitz, I'd take him in the 5th, but the Giants can take him in the 2nd. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. That's why, like, for me, my idea this year was if you start, hitting the trade deadline and the Saints are bad and the Bears are good, like, give up a 3rd or a 4th round pick for Cameron Jordan, right? Like, you have money, they don't. Their cap space is hell. He's old. He's 32. Give him a chance to, like, that's one of those like pie in the sky. We'll see how the season plays out. I get the value position and everything like that. The Saints at that point, if they're like 2-6, like they'll want to get rid of money and an old aging player. Give them a 4th round pick. That's what you got for Robert Quinn, right? Quinn. So that's what you get. So like, even let's say it's a little better, you got to give up a 3rd for Cameron Jordan for a playoff push. I'm down. I'm fine with that. I get the value part of it, but
did you hear? Just I believe yesterday it came out some more like Hard Knocks footage, I think, from the Giants and from Brian Dable. Did you hear any of this or no?
I did.
He and I heard some people are kind of mad. I heard Saquon Barkley was really mad because he didn't know he was being recorded or something. But regardless, there was a conversation that took place with Brian Dable where he was talking about how they have a conditional offer from the Bears that if Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are gone, that they would make a trade with the Bears. The Bears would come up from pick 9 to pick 6. But they said that they thought the Bears were going to take a tackle.
Yeah, Joe Alt.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're going through and they're like, okay, so then the Bears take a tackle, and then after us is the Chargers, I believe. We're pick 7. They're going to take a tackle and this and that, and they're counting that like they'd be at pick 9 with Roma Dunze there. But the truth is, if Ryan Poles would have made that move, it would have been up to go up and get Roma Dunze because they've said it multiple times that has been their second guy on the board. But I think the offer was like third and a fourth. And I think
that's what it was.
5th round pick back.
Yep.
And they would move up from pick 9 to pick 6. And I think, it's little situations like that where thank God we have Ian Cunningham, because you heard Ryan Poles say that, he told me, he made me hit the brakes a little bit and this and that. And I mean, we even heard, us trying to offer Atlanta a 4th round pick to move up one spot. And like, look, we stayed put. Roma Dunze, the guy that they wanted, fell to the Bears anyway. And I mean, it just feels like we made out like bandits in this thing, man. We really did.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the draft always just kind of being part luck, right? And then a lot of teams just straight up. You use the example of Paxton Lynch and Patrick Mahomes, right? Like that's just the Chiefs were about to look like the biggest idiots in all of football by taking Paxton Lynch, and then they didn't because the Broncos refused the trade, and then. Now look at the Chiefs, right? So part of it is luck, but looking through the draft process of the Giants, I kind of feel bad because watching it, I watched the same things that they showed, and I didn't watch any of those clips thinking, wow, Malik Neighbors, such a clear-cut pick over Roma Dunze. I'm watching these going like, Roma Dunze is clearly the second best if you're just like locked in on Marvin Harrison, but the dice rolls your way and you get lucky, I guess. So hopefully Roma Dunze is the cream of the crop.
Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. And like Bear Truth 9 said, all draft boards are different. Yep, definitely. And, you don't know what these teams are thinking. You can only just, guess at what other teams are going to do, but you really truly never know. And Squeegee here says the thing about Bates is that he's so versatile. Poles said the day he got there, he was interior O-line depth, coupled with the fact that Shelton has more starts at center. I think Bates is the backup. See, I would disagree a little bit. I think it is Bates' job in the long run, maybe not initially. I think Shelton, he's coming from the Rams, which is Sean McVay's system. It's something that Shane Waldron is a branch off of. So I think you're very comfortable with that guy, at least being a plug and play guy, understanding terminology or understanding the idea behind what you're trying to do. But ultimately, I think you would want Ryan Bates at that position. If he gets hurt, boom, you have Shelton in there. Or if Bates isn't ready to go quick enough, you still feel comfortable to have a guy that can at least start this thing off while you get him acclimated and put him in there. But, I was asked a question while I was on a podcast like a week ago. The topic was if there was a training camp MVP award, like who do you think would get it? And on offense, I said, well, I approached this from 2 different angles, like the most obvious and the most impactful. To me, the most obvious would have been DJ Moore, but most impactful, I said Ryan Bates. And then it was really cool because I believe Tevin Jenkins commented on how good Bates was coming along in camp. So even just to hear his name pop up from one of the other linemen was just like, oh, good. And I think they know it, man. I think they all know that guy's got to play well. And so, yeah, I hopefully Ryan Poles is accurate with his evaluation of that guy. And, it's always interesting when we look at situations like when guys trade up for somebody, it tells me that, hey, I know what I'm doing and this is going to work. And when we saw Ryan Pace do that and it fails and fails and fails, that's miserable. It seems like this is one of those situations where even though we didn't, necessarily trade up for him or anything like that, we did kind of pursue this guy. So the feeling is that, hey, this is the guy we want. I know what I'm doing. This is going to work out. And I just hope that does pan out. I
think also 2 things about Ryan Bates real quick. First of all, I think I'm 99% sure he's getting first team snaps at center in training camp. So that's just one of those, it hints towards who's going to be winning that position battle like further down the line. Secondly, I think unfortunately, a lot of time investment of your assets, like your draft picks and how much money you spend on a guy and how much you like him is going to dictate like whether he's the starter or not. Coleman Shelton is a nice backup plan because he's, like you said, he knows the system. He's a good plug and play guy. If somebody gets hurt, you don't feel like there's a massive drop off. But I think when you put all this effort into getting Ryan Bates 2 years in a row, and then you get him finally, and now you're saying that this guy's my guy and all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's where, him being a starter is kind of writing on the wall. I think he'd have to really, really do a bad job in training camp for Coleman Shelton just to be like, you know what, we can't start this guy. Coleman Shelton's got to play. So I think that's a part of it.
I like this comment by Bear Truth 9. Bates also lights a fire under Nate Davis because Davis could be traded for pennies and it would save us $9 million this year. Yeah, and David, I know he's practiced. He has practiced this year, but I know at the start, at the very beginning, when he didn't participate, I don't think it was mandatory. I think it was voluntary. But I think you called me right away. You're like, get rid of him, cut him. Screw this guy. He's not in. I'm sick and tired of it. Yeah, man, we got a short leash with our mentality on some of these guys. And I've also heard that this has been who Nate Davis is, though. Even on the Titans, that this isn't anything new, that this is kind of something that's been repeated a little bit. And listen, at the end of the day, just like we said with Chase Claypool, listen, I don't care. Just go out there and produce. Right? Like, that's what's going to matter. And if you don't, then, it's time. It's time to move on from that guy. Nice try, not good effort. But if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. I don't want to sit there and hang on to the guy for no reason,
Ryan Poles has demonstrated that he's willing to cut his losses a little bit, right? With Chase Claypool and a few other guys, right? That he, if he sees the writing on the wall that he needs to cut his losses, he'll do it. And Nate Davis, I mean, not only that, but if you remember, you don't save any. You don't save any money this year, but you do get to save money next year because it was a 2-year guaranteed, a third year where you can cut and save some money. That's where a lot of the comments are coming from, where people say if you don't keep Nate Davis this year, the money that you save cutting Nate Davis, you could put towards Tevin Jenkins.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Squeegee's right on that one, but and then if you remember, a lot of the stuff with Nate Davis was like all those personal excuses, right? Remember, he got excused for personal reasons and stuff like that, and I don't like commenting on that stuff because God, you don't know what happened. Maybe the guy had family sick or whatever, but that was a lot of reasons. And, I remember reading a couple of articles from like Tennessee Titans beat reporters back then where they were saying like, this is a dude who just does not like to practice. He just never really was a big fan of practice. But like you said, it's all about production. If this guy comes out and plays a lot better, because he was not good last year either, we'll all forget about it and move on, and Nate Davis will be a solid player.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, when the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase, they brought him into practice. The reports were this guy cannot catch a football. Yeah. You can't catch a football. And then look, Jamar Chase goes out there, produces left and right, and those stories die down real quick. Yeah, right.
Even Jamar Chase had a comment that he was saying that the NCAA ball has the white stripes, which makes it easier to see. And I think he commented on the fact that he was like, well, I can't see the white stripes, so it's harder to catch. Leave me alone. And then all of a sudden he's like catching 1,500 yards in his rookie year.
Right,
so like,
exactly.
We try not to get too caught up in training camp, but it does matter a little bit. And, Hard Knocks will hype everybody up this year really hard. But, yeah, training camp doesn't matter the most.
What I like that I've seen out of training camp, really, is Caleb Williams. And there was that one play you pointed out to me, and I've seen it in the highlights that I put together that he's done it. And it was just like a great replica where sits there, drops back, steps up in the pocket, steps on the pocket. He's looking left. And across the screen, you see Tremaine Edmonds, number 49, go across, and he just looks right and throws it. And it's just like the second that linebacker clears, nope, I got you, no problem. And it's like, man, that's the stuff that quarterbacks are supposed to do, and it's so refreshing to even just see that one little clip, you know what I mean? And, I know this stuff can be very misleading at times. I know even when we watch the broadcast of games, you get a certain idea. And then I go back and I load up the A22 film, and it could tell a completely different story sometimes than what you saw in the broadcast. So, angles and the whole vision of what's going on are important. But you did see him look off a linebacker, which is pretty cool because Man, that is just completely the opposite of what we're used to. I don't want to sit here and kick a dead horse, but like with Justin Fields, man, he was staring down receivers and still not hitting them. And it was just so far away from what this is. And I think we kind of commented on it. Like, man, if the floor is what Justin Fields was in year 3, year 4, what we expected of him, if that's the floor for this rookie, I mean, we're going to be in good shape moving forward here. And yeah, I really like what I've seen out of Caleb as far as everything, as far as the attitude, the personality, the play. And I mean, man, you look at the release. I love watching his release. It's so quick. I saw a couple throws where it was just snap, dump off to the running back, snap, dump off to the running back. So smooth. It looks so nice.
I might be taking DeAndre Swift in fantasy this year, honestly.
Oh, okay. A little fantasy football talk, something that we don't do
on Bearskifilm.
Yeah, right. Oh, there you go.
Six catches a game, I would say wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's funny because, like, another topic came up on a podcast I was on about safety blankets and how, you could use some of these wide receivers as safety blankets and whatnot. But, the reason why tight ends are safety blankets is because, listen, you know how much Travis Kelce is getting paid right now?
Ooh, 28 million?
17 million a year.
Oh, jeez. Sounds like a bargain, though.
It sounds like a bargain, but I mean, dude, the tight ends just get paid less, right?
Yeah.
So, we talked about getting Cole Kmet on a budget deal, and it's like, dude, the value there might be huge because, man, these defenses are going to have a lot to worry about with this offense. There is a lot of pieces. There is a lot of weapons. And at the end of the day, Cole Kmet may be finding himself very, very open. Or same thing, like dump offs to the running back and things like that. Those things may have a lot of potential to rack up some good yardage and be impactful plays, even though they're small little throws. So he's just got to make the right reads, right?
Yeah, it's funny when you think about like all the stuff that you heard about Caleb Williams going into the draft, right? And it's like the crazy arm, the crazy throwing angles, the off-platform throws, and yeah, like he's super polished already. And I think the thing that we are failing to talk about too much about Caleb, and I'm starting to hear a little bit more about it, is somebody said that he was like a really good processor and he's really, really smart. And right now, and we've seen it over years, like not the most physically gifted quarterbacks end up being like really, really good pros and the Hall of Famers and all pros and all that stuff. Like right now, what you need Caleb Williams to be is the smartest guy. Yeah. Or at least just smarter than what Justin Fields was. I don't even like saying that name anymore. But like I've started my rewatch of the season, when I go through at the beginning, like right before preseason, I go through and I watch like all 17 games. I'll watch like the condensed versions, and then I'll watch some all 22 on like certain plays and stuff. And just watching the early games in the preseason or in the regular season of last year, man, it's just not elegant quarterback play, if that makes sense. It's just very like just slamming into a wall quarterback play. And that's just something that I got really, really sick of early on watching that. There's those little things that you'd like to see from really smart quarterbacks where they just do like a hard count cadence and then somebody jumps offside, you get a touchdown from it. Those little things, or stepping up into a pocket and like weaving through pressure. Man, like I said this towards the end of last year, the further away you step away from watching Justin Fields, because he was like a drug. When you watched him, it was just so exciting and you wanted more and you just wanted to see the next play because is he going to run for 30 yards? But when you watch it like with a step back, like, man, that was some rough stuff. That was some unpolished work, So I want Caleb Williams to just, even early on, I don't really need to see like the crazy talent yet. I just want to see him be like smart. I want to see him be really, really smart with the ball for 6 games to 8 games. And then if he needs to step up towards those division games and like throw for 40 attempts and 500 yards and all that stuff, man, that's going to be awesome. But right now, I just really, really need Caleb to just be smart. And that's those few things that you're seeing at a training camp right now, the little look off passes, the little, you stare down the X receiver for like a screen and then you fake it like you're going to pump a deep ball and then you just dump off on a screen. Like that's those little nuances that you just like. It's unfortunate because Justin Fields is a quarterback his whole life. And we talked about that. Those are those little things you should pick up in the game as you play that position. And it just seems like it never really clicked for him. Those like little savvy things. And it feels like Caleb Williams is just savvy as hell. And that's my hope that like first 4 games, you know it when you see it. I think you see a quarterback be like clever and savvy because you can't really pick that up on interviews or college highlights because that's just like pure talent. But it's those savvy being slightly cleverer than everybody plays that are going to really impress me in like the first 4 weeks. And I've seen it so far in training camp.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good things to come here for this team. And you know, with like you said, I don't even want to mention his name anymore either, but like the things I saw last year, you know, Justin Fields, I mean, listen, he had a great deep ball, right? Sure, some of the decision making wasn't there, but then when it came time to like throw a dump off, I rarely saw him hit a running back in stride. I mean, so, and then I kind of went back to like that basketball tournament. I was like, you got to make your layups. You have to listen, just do the easy stuff right. And, you know, that's something that I hope we're not going to have an issue here with Caleb. It seems like the easy stuff is being done right. And it seems like there's a good foundation here that we'll be able to, you know, build off of and grow off of and progress off of. And there's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't happen with the talent that's surrounding him on this team too. So,
those like, I want to see a 5-yard slant just look really easy. First like week of football, for the love of God.
How many times have we seen the Packers do it to us? 3rd and 6. Guess what they're doing? Slant.
That was in my highlight. I'm watching week 1 against the Packers, and they're just running out with 11 personnel, and they're just like 3 wide, just 1-2, bam, and it's just 8 yards right in front of Jalen Johnson's face. And they make it look so obvious and easy. You're just watching that going like Leonardo DiCaprio. Slant.
Yeah.
And and the team can't see it. And it's just 8 yards every time. And it's been years and years of that. I'm going to sprinkle a little Packers shit talk right now, just because everybody's going to appreciate that. Mr. Laid back, cool guy, Jordan Love, all of a sudden wants to be the highest paid player in the NFL, in NFL history. Oh no. We have a diva on our hands in Green Bay. No. Oh man. Oh, you hate to see it. Oh, yeah. Why?
You know, but this is what happens when you give a player that much leverage. Like, yeah, you know, everybody says that, hey, they have the system that works. They have, you know, you hold on to a guy, you teach him, you sit him for a while. And, you know, I've talked to a couple Packers fans and I go, yeah, listen, okay, I get that it's worked for you guys with Aaron Rodgers, but, you know, other teams have tried that and it's not always worked. Other teams have sat guys before, and it doesn't always work. And so, you know, what you have here is interesting because you held on to him for a while. He got 1 year to start, and he's got all the leverage. Like, if you don't pay him, what else are you doing?
I, unfortunately, and this makes I feel dumb, but, like, who's the Packers' backup quarterback? I honestly don't know.
I don't. Let me look it up.
Yeah, because that's to your point. Like, he has all the leverage. He had an incredible season, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks.
Like, Sean Clifford.
Whoa. Who?
Yeah, who?
Yeah.
Sean Clifford, cow. Michael Pratt, Jacob Eason are their 4 listed.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so
you give him, I mean, what is he has you by the balls.
And then I hope they pay him and I hope he sucks. It drives him right into that financial hole. Fucking burning hell, man. I would love to see it. I would love to
I heard a lot of talk this week about, I've been listening to my rotation of like podcasts and just NFL stuff. And like a lot of the topics were like how about NFC North being one of the best divisions in football. And I stand by that. I think it's, if not number 1, it's number 2. AFC North, NFC North, probably, right? Top 2, like with a bullet. I would
definitely say the AFC North is
better, right?
Yeah.
So like it's 1 or 2 with a bullet, I think. But man, I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, the Bears can collapse with their starters, right? And I think that's part of this weird pressure that we're feeling in this offseason and this training camp. And it's like, I feel like it's every fan is just like super ready to be super excited, but we're just like, I've been hurt before. So I'm going to kind of temper my expectations. I don't want to like, it's like everybody's just like, I met a girl and I don't want to be too clingy right away. So I want to be clingy, but I'm not going to be clingy because I know that shit scares them off. You know what I mean? Are you really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we got a new girl and she's super cool, but I feel like if I'm myself, I'm gonna fuck this up. So I'm gonna play it cool.
I'm gonna be
We're gonna
careful
play it
about letting her
cool
spend the night too often because I don't want her to
too early.
move
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
scare the shit out of this
right.
girl. And I think that's what we're doing with like this generation, like this regime change and like Caleb Williams and stuff. Like I don't want to scare Caleb off yet. You know, I'm gonna wait a year before I fart in front of her. You know, and so like, you know, but
Before
I
we let him
think
smell the stink that is the
yeah,
McCaskies.
and
Right,
in our fandom
right.
that's been just hurt so much. But like I was thinking, man, the other NFC teams are really, really, really good as well, but I feel like they are one just as much, if not more so, one like really bad situation away from being worse. So if that makes sense, like so the Bears, if Caleb Williams gets hurt, I kind of still feel like it's a decent team. I think Tyson Bagent can keep you afloat for 6 games, right? Like that's you're not relying on it. We've said this, like what's our paper tiger problem in Chicago? It's like an interior offensive lineman. If one of those guys gets hurt, like there's nothing there. We're fucked. And Caleb Williams getting his
Montez Sweat goes down.
and then if Montez Sweat goes down, you're fucked, right? Like, so those are our paper tiger problems. But like, I feel like in Green Bay, the paper tiger problem is like way worse. Like, if Jordan Loves goes down or doesn't sign his contract and he wants to be the highest paid player in NFL history, which he has all the leverage, like you said, and Jared Goff's ass just got like $58 million a year or whatever. So if he's not playing, I don't think Green Bay is that good. I don't know. Like they don't have any superstar wide receivers. They don't have any superstar tight ends. They don't have any. Now they have Aaron Jones, but their defense is everybody's a B player or a B plus player. No A players otherwise. In Minnesota, you're counting on Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy.
Real quick with the Packers, Love had 4,000 yards season, but no receivers had over, I believe, 800 yards.
Right.
To what you're saying. So yeah. Then with the Vikings, what?
Oh, Vikings, you're depending on Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy, really. Right?
It's good. Yeah, right. Okay. So you're depending on Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy?
I don't know. Caleb Williams feels like a steak and mashed potatoes gal, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
right.
She's you can't take her to McDonald's. At least small Cheval or something.
Right.
Yeah. But like the Vikings, like I mean, Justin Jefferson's 3 games into the season and Sam Darnold can't get him the ball. I see that shit imploding so fast, right? He's going to freak out. Sam Darnold's going to get benched. JJ McCarthy's like JJ McCarthy. From what I've seen, that guy's not good. And then the Lions, man, Jared Goff, I mean, on his best days is very solid. But even like your advanced stats about like Jared Goff against the blitz, I want to say he against the San Francisco 49ers, like without blitzing, he completed like 80% of his passes. With a blitz on him, just any blitzing situation, he completed like 20% of his passes. Like, you know what Jared Goff is. And I don't think he's best paid quarterback in the league. And now you're paying Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, I feel like they're drinking their own Kool-Aid a little bit. They're farting in the wine glass.
Didn't their head coach say himself, like, I don't know if we could get back.
Don't get me wrong. Detroit's really good. Like, Sam Laporta's great. Amon-Ra St. Brown's really great. Like,
yeah, but for them to take a step forward, it means that they're in a Super Bowl. It's more likely to take a step back. Like,
right.
It just is what it is, And
I think they're drinking their own Kool-Aid a little too hard. They're like, man, we've done this for 2 years straight. And it's like, yeah, but you're also like 1 year away from being back to being Detroit.
Yeah.
This is all like very Bears haterade, and I'm acknowledging it. Like, they're still like going to be my favorite in the NFC to win the NFC North and whatever, but like, I don't know. I feel like their paper tiger problems are way worse than ours. Like this
division's up for grabs, though. It is.
I think so.
They don't have like a hold on this division like Kansas City has on theirs. That's not what the situation is here. No, and they have shined recently, but we've talked about head coaching styles too, and that rah-rah head coach, that motivational head coach, that works when you're getting wins. If you lose a couple games early on, that rah-rah stuff, guys stop buying in pretty quick, and we've seen that.
That's my number one.
Another
yeah,
thing
Matt
is
Nagy,
like
man, club dub, baby. Like,
another thing is like all these fourth downs and like you borderline being there's being aggressive and then there's being stubborn. And there's been times where I've looked at the Lions going that's stubborn. I mean, you've had some situations where they've gone on it when they shouldn't have. And although it's worked in their favor a lot of the times, it's not going to continue. You're going to, the law of averages is going to come into play. If you keep trying to sit here and make those risky type of decisions, they're going to bite you in the ass at some point. And if they haven't yet, well, guess what? They will moving forward. And so that's kind of where I'm looking at the Lions going, I don't know. They have an opportunity. They are talented. They're really talented. They're a good team. But there are things that can happen that could definitely stop them in their tracks and, make this a much less successful season for them this year than they had last year. I love the financial conversation, especially when it comes to quarterbacks and everything like that. Like, man, you look at Justin Jefferson and getting paid all that money, and it's like that's great. But like, what does that get you? I brought up the other day on a show that I was at, like, guys, Randy Moss doesn't have a Super Bowl.
no.
Randy Moss does not have a Super Bowl. The wide receivers are awesome. They're great.
Does T.O. have a Super Bowl?
No, he was in one.
Yeah.
But I don't think he has a ring. And,
I mean, the five best receivers in the history of the NFL, half of them don't. Like, Jerry Rice has them just because he's Jerry Rice, and he got him with the team. Like, Marvin Harrison has one, but like, your T.O., Randy Moss, those are like the other guys that best receivers in the history of the NFL.
It's rough, and so that can't be your leading piece, in my opinion. Like what the Vikings are doing right now, they got a lot riding on J.J. McCarthy. Because if he doesn't work out, it doesn't matter that you have Justin Jefferson. It really doesn't. And, it all starts with the quarterback. And we've seen quarterbacks actually make no-name wide receivers better and into playmakers and things like that. That's how it's supposed to work. The quarterback's supposed to elevate the guys around you. And then, like, I brought this up too, like being a little kid coming to this country, 6 years old. I didn't know much about America, but I knew Michael Jordan. Being a little 6-year-old kid in Poland, I knew who Michael Jordan was. So you want to talk about the effect that championships have? You know what I mean? If Caleb Williams is truly chasing Tom Brady, right, you are going to have to sit here at some point and make the unorthodox approach financially and not if you want that sustained success, it's not about taking up as much cap room as you can. It's not about getting paid as much as you can now. It's a team game. You got to allocate those finances better and give the GM an opportunity to sit here and make good decisions and put good pieces around you in order for you to have sustained success. I mean, I think what we just saw in Kansas City too, where they got rid of Tyreek Hill, and here we go. They won another Super Bowl, right? You didn't have to pay that guy. He's a great wide receiver, but you don't have to pay him.
2 points like to that. Like, if I was a Vikings fan, and I can honestly, this is not haterade right here. This is the logical part of my brain. Like, if Justin Jefferson was a Chicago Bear and somebody this offseason gave you a Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill package and they said no, I'd be pissed. If you declined like 2 firsts and a third, and I had just if somebody offered the Vikings 2 firsts and a third and they said no, if I was a fan, I'd be like, seriously?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with this guy for 3 to 4 years? We're going to pay him $30 million. He's going to get pissed anyway and leave when he's 29. Like, who cares? You're not winning a championship in the next year or two, Justin Jefferson's prime. And then secondly, the funny part about when you mentioned that is I heard you say that comment about like if Caleb Williams really, really, really wants to win, there's 2 examples of it automatically are Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Neither of them are top 10 or top 5 paid in their respective positions, and they have the most rings at that position. Yeah, they are worth their weight in gold for sure, but they need to be part of the decision making process and part of the process that helps you build around them, rather than being the main star of the show. Because Caleb Williams has 2 idols, and you know what they are? It's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and those 2 guys are perfect as his idols because he can follow one guy or he can follow the path of the other guy. And if he follows one guy's path, He's going to make a lot of money and probably win one Super Bowl, maybe,
Right.
if he's lucky.
Maybe.
And if he follows the other guy, he's going to take a little less money, make a shitload of endorsements. I mean, make all the endorsements, because that's a thing that I never really understood with championships and like of players that just don't like understand that model, is when you win, you will make so much more money by being a champion and being world famous, like you said. Like, even for me, when I'm at work, like, kids know who Patrick Mahomes is. Kids know who Tom Brady is. They have no idea who Montez Sweat is. They have no idea who Aaron Rodgers is, even, frankly. So, like, being that dude does matter, and you get State Farm commercials. You become the head of, whatever. You get it all.
Michael
so, like,
Strahan, like, hosts the Today Show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He would not be doing that if he didn't have a ring.
Exactly. 2 rings.
Right.
Yeah, so like, I mean, he has 2 exact polar opposite models of, do I want to be this guy's career path or do I want to be this one? And he's openly said he wants to be Tom Brady. He models his game after Aaron Rodgers, but he wants to be Tom Brady. So hopefully he's taking his own advice down the line. And I understand it's a business, and that's why, like, none of this, even the most recent stuff that we've heard about Caleb Williams, like, I didn't take it personally at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying, though. Yeah,
that's all we're saying. Like, and it's not even that Aaron Rodgers isn't incredible. Aaron Rodgers is incredible. Great. He's amazing. We hated him for years. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, me and Paul will always be on this. Like, we are always thinking of your team 2 to 3 years ahead at any given moment. Always. We're always thinking about the Bears 2 to 3 years ahead at any time. Even when you're talking about, we never take contracts personally. I always say that to you. It's not my money. I'm not saying we're paying the guy. No, they're paying the guy. I don't care. But in terms of, did you pay him too much? And is it going to ruin the guys you can pay in the future? Or is it going to ruin re-signing that guy and this and that? But you have two examples of what you can be and what you want to be. And hopefully he takes his own advice. That's what I'm saying. The contract negotiations, even for this one, where they were like, he doesn't want a 5th-year option. He doesn't want a franchise tag option. First of all, if he's anywhere near what he's supposed to be, the franchise tag won't matter. When's the last quarterback you saw get franchise tagged off of his rookie year? Off his rookie year contract, the last guy was, I think, was it Daniel Jones, or they just gave him the deal?
I think they just gave him the deal.
They just gave him the deal. And then 5th-year options lately, they're not that hard to pick, because Daniel Jones declined and they just extended him. And the Steelers just traded for Justin Fields and declined that one too. If it was obvious, people would be taking them. I didn't take him saying, like, I don't want a 5th-year option. I don't want a franchise tag personally, because A, it's a business. B, with quarterbacks, by year 4, you're either going to extend that guy in year 4, or you're just going to say, you know what, we're going to decline your 5th-year option. We're probably going to start looking ahead. And if Caleb Williams, like, what is Caleb? Yeah, Joe Burrow took less money. And then, like, that's why Trevor Lawrence in my mind is like, the Jaguars are going to be in hell in the next 4 years. That's like the worst case scenario. That if you're Caleb Williams and a Bears fan, or Caleb Williams fan and a Bears fan, the last thing you want is exactly Trevor Lawrence, because he's just good enough to, like, be good and maybe make your team a little better, but he's not, like, carrying the load all by himself. And so now, if, like, what do you do? Who do you sign to make the Jaguars better? You don't have the money.
Right. Yeah. And, and you hear this all the time. Being stuck in the middle is the worst spot to be. I mean, think about this. If we just win one more game, hell, if Carolina won one more game, we'd be in a completely different situation now. Like, say if we won and we did make the playoffs, right? Or at the end of the year, we beat Green Bay. We sneak into the playoffs. We probably keep Justin Fields then. And like I said, and then you start getting into rocky waters here, because one thing we said at the beginning of the year last year was, if we're still not 100% certain at the end of the year about Justin Fields, I don't want to play this game. I don't want to be left scratching my head after year 3. Like, no, man, it's pretty evident who these guys are in this league, and you could see it pretty quickly. Look at CJ Stroud, right? Yeah. Look at what he was able to do. Oh, wasn't Houston a wreck of a situation?
Yeah.
1 year. 1 year later, right? And everybody's looking up to him, right? So, man, and then with the whole Super Bowl conversation, even if Caleb does win just one, right? Say even if he does win just one in this city, man, you will be treated like
Royalty.
royalty
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, man. And so, if you win multiple, oh God, dude, they'll never forget you. I mean, we still talk about the 85 Bears. That was before I was born. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, dude, there's a lot of opportunity here, especially if you're looking at it from a business point of view. If you want to build your brand as Caleb Williams, there's so much more money on the table in the long run. That's what I mean. You don't have to sit here and just do what Jordan Love's doing right now and grab your team by the balls, man.
In Chicago, forget about it, man. You win 2 in Chicago in like 10 years. They might rename the tower just like the Williams Tower.
Right.
Like the Caleb Tower. Like
right. Correct.
Dude.
No, yeah. I mean, dude, we've had Ditka restaurants here. I'm pretty sure Ditka never paid for anything after 85.
No. Urlacher hadn't paid for anything. He never won shit.
They even gave Urlacher hair after a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'd love to get hair.
Yeah. Hey, believe me, I would love to get hair. All right. Yeah. I don't know, man. We're going on an hour 5 here. I think we could start wrapping this thing up a little bit. Any closing thoughts?
No, man. I think the hype train is starting to catch on to me, and Hard Knocks hasn't even go through history, man. Anytime a team's on Hard Knocks, that hype train kind of doubles, triples in size. So I think the fandom is in a good place where they're not hyping themselves up too much yet. Like that little jokey analogy we did about, not getting too excited too early. I think we're all so tempted to be like 1 year ahead with our excitement, but like next year is going to be the really exciting year. Like by some miracle, let's hope we win a Super Bowl this year. That'd be great. But even if it's like a nice deep, playoff chase or even an early playoff exit this year, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we're a year ahead of our excitement a little bit, but I think that once that Hard Knocks hits, man, it's going to be, I just hope we don't ruin ourselves. I hope we don't kill ourselves with this hype yet. So that's where I'm wrapping up.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny though, KO, because no matter what the conversation was, I bet you half the city will.
Oh, dude, game 1, week 1, when Fox pans over to the fans and every fingernail is just
right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're gonna see it. So, all right.
The 50-yard line is gonna be covered.
Right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, on this rare live show for us, we were definitely excited to do it, and thank you guys.
Hopefully, do some more soon.
Yeah. We're gonna try and do some more live shows here.
New stuff this season. Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is very exciting. The best is still to come here. So bear down, everybody. Appreciate y'all.